Well, I think what I've learned about the media over the years is even more so with social media is clickbait. You see this sensationalist headline of landlords exiting the market. If you are talking to friends and family who frankly are not full-time investors, don't even go there. I've never seen an interview with Richard Branson where he's like, I'm just thinking that this is not the right market to be setting up a new business, or this is just not the right time for launching a new product. Like, he's never talked about market conditions driving his business.
15 years of doing this, how many people have we interviewed?
No.
Hi, and welcome to This Property Life, the podcast brought to you by Property Wealth System. At This Property Life, we try and give you insights into the real world of property investors, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We try and give you the real investor's perspective, warts and all. It's not all cupcakes and rainbows out there, as we know. We bring you stories and interviews with people in property that help inspire our listeners to either get started or to keep going amongst all the noise that's out there. I'm Nick Claydon, and today I'm joined by my partner in life and all things property, Caroline Claydon, and we are going to discuss today the great landlord exodus, allegedly. So, what does that mean? Well, should we have a look at some headlines that I've seen recently? I think we've seen quite a few things in. Well, it depends what publication that you tend to read. But I've chosen one of our favourites for all things disinformation, the Deadly Mail. Let's have a little look. So, what are they talking about here? So, talking about higher mortgage rates. These are recent headlines, literally in the last few weeks. High mortgage rates impacting buy-to-let investors.
Well, that's not really accurate right now because we're seeing interest rates coming down more and more. In fact, we're in the middle of 2 refinances, and we were just emailed yesterday that between choosing the 2-year fix and the 5-year fix, it's already dropped to 0.1%. So they are coming down. But anyway,
but these are some of the headlines that, for those maybe looking to get into property, you might be a bit put off. Mortgage interest rate bills have gone up. Are landlords in crisis? High mortgage rate. What I find is a lot of these publications, they're written by journalists. And most of the time, journalists are behind the curve. They're reporting things that they've heard or that have happened. And that doesn't necessarily reflect what's actually currently going on in the market.
Yeah.
So, but it does scare people. It does put people off.
The headline after that mortgage rate, if you just click again, Nick, for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see these headlines. But this one here, if you can just pause it there, tenant in rent arrears set to rise with landlords giving warning as price outpace people's incomes. I mean, is that a Deadly Mail?
It is, yeah. Yeah, these are all Deadly Mails, yeah. But I mean, to be fair, they appear in slightly less alarmist headlines in, Times, Telegraph, broadsheets if you want to, compare same day to different headlines. Tenant in rent arrears set to rise. Well, it's just a headline. Landlords given warning as prices outpace people's incomes. But it's all too general, isn't it?
Well, I think what I've learned about the media over the years is, and even more so with social media, is clickbait, right? You see this sensationalist headline of landlords exiting the market. In fact, the next headline, if you just read out the next headline, is that the one that's like, all landlords are basically leaving here for sale. More landlords head for the exit. That's quite sensationalist. And so for the lay person just going about their life, going to their work and seeing a headline like that, they then believe that, buy-to-let's dead, landlords are selling up and getting out of the market, and it's not really the thing to do right now. And then they carry on with their life and don't really think more about it. But for those that are a bit more seasoned, if they actually open up the article and read it, it's all very waffly stuff that's like, you're not telling me anything new there.
This one's taken from Rightmove, and it's just a stat. It's just reporting the proportion of former rental properties being listed for sale was at its highest on record. This is just from Rightmove. 18% of homes now for sale were previously available for rent, compared with 8% in 2010. What's that really telling us? I don't know.
When did they start the records?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Exiting? Are they fleeing, running for the hills? Well, we're not. and a lot of our team. I don't know of anybody that's panic selling.
If you are loving what you're hearing on this Property Life podcast, you can join us for a free training that will give you a 7-step process, a roadmap on how to start and scale a property investment business. The 7th step of the process is the most surprising of all. It really shakes people when they learn that 7th and final step. You will also get some live case studies of deals our students are working on right now for training that's worth over £1,000. You can access that free by clicking the link in the show notes to access that 1 hour of content today. Yeah, but let's talk about the people who are, because look, they're not just making these headlines up. They are, we there have been instances that have occurred, policies, regulations that have come in that frankly have put people off. And so I think the biggest one that we need to talk about is obviously clause 24. Clause or section 24, for those of you that don't know, was a policy that was brought in that stated you could no longer claim your mortgage interest payments as a tax deductible expense against your rental income. They actually go a step further and say, well, we're actually going to add your profit on a monthly basis or annual basis to the interest that you're paying on your mortgage as profit and tax you on that. So that then pushed people who might have been in a low tax bracket and have a couple of buy-to-lets as their pension play into suddenly a higher income tax bracket. And for those guys, and we had friends in that exact situation who absolutely said it's just not financially viable for us to keep it. It's not, there's no benefit for us. The capital growth and everything else that people believe property to be so attractive for was just outweighed by the monthly costs or the tax costs that they were going to have because of clause 24. So that was the big one, right? That was a big sucker punch to the market, and we did see an awful lot of people exit.
But let's kind of zoom out there, right, and think, okay, well, look, what was the bigger picture there? What was the government trying to do?
Yeah.
Now, if you look at policies that the government, and I'm talking about the previous government, put in place, their strategy has been to get private landlords out of the sector. That's what they've been. That's the only conclusion you can draw from what they've done, particularly with clause 24. That was pointed at amateur landlords who maybe got one or two buy-to-lets, and I know who you're talking about when you talk about friends of ours. I think they had one investment property, right? If it's what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of, they had one investment property that was going to be like a pension play,
Yeah.
and hang on to it, we'll rent it out, and that'll be our pension down the line. That is exactly the kind of amateur investor that, and I'm not being rude about saying amateur investor, but there is a difference between
It's a
somebody
more of a
hanging
sort
on
of,
to a property that they own or buying one for that purpose than there is the professional investor mindset, which we'll come on to.
yeah, it was like a bit of a, a side hustle
Yeah,
in, one or two
yeah.
properties. And they normally have bought the property not with the view to have it as an investment, but actually was their very first flat that they lived in. And then, of course, they meet their partner and they get married and they buy their family home, the forever home, and then they try and keep the starter flats that they had, or maybe only sell one of them to help with the deposit for the forever family home. So that was a really kind of standard situation people found themselves in, certainly within the middle class, that they would play out. And so this clause 24 killed that market,
It was brought
which,
in. It was brought in specifically to kill that market.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that there was a lot of noise at the time about that. And we've seen some fallout with stock coming onto the marketplace from those types of landlords. But since then, I think there's been even more for us to contend with, which is why then it feeds the headlines that you've got here that we're sharing with you right now, if you're seeing them on YouTube. But I'll read them out. Labour to end no fault evictions for renters, but letting agents warn for landlords exodus without court reform. This is big. And actually, this has been in play already in Scotland for far too long, where you can't increase the rent, you can't evict somebody. Then, when COVID came along, that was magnified massively at the same time when interest rates have just gone through the roof unexpectedly. So it's the perfect storm for someone who is maybe not full time in property, looking for property to be their business and support them. And everything felt certainly that it was heavily weighted in favor of the tenant, particularly in Scotland, I would say.
Yeah. And again, for me, right? I think that I'm getting kind of a bit political, but um, it's a Friday morning. Get political, why not? But I think a lot of this stems from governments and politicians trying to gauge what the public current opinion is, right?
Yeah.
And try and come up with policies that will appease the voters. Simple as
Yeah.
that, really. Landlords have been on the end of the bashing stick ever since bankers were relieved of that burden after 2008, 9. It then became landlords. It's still landlords at the moment.
Yeah. And I think it will continue to be landlords, in all honesty, because when you have a market where there's low supply and high demand, someone's got to be put for to blame for that, and it's all these landlords pushing the first time buyers out of the marketplace, which is absolute nonsense, but let's just
Yeah,
let them have
because
that, right?
what the government or politicians particularly don't get is not all landlords are the same, right? And you have to, I think, distinguish between people trying to do it properly, professional landlords who
Yeah.
this is their business, right? And it's like a business like any other businesses, and therefore, why should those landlords be hammered with the big stick? Because they're just creating a business, right? The amateur landlords, the ones who hang on to properties for a pension play or whatever it is, that's different. That is different, and I do kind of get why the government go after those type of landlords. But you put everyone into the same bracket, and the property market's proven time and time again, it's just not that simple. You can't just solve it. You can't solve the problem by these kind of blanket policies of, yeah,
Yeah.
well, let's just bring that. I think I did some research on this, right? And anyone that's ever tried to bring in rent controls, it's never worked.
Yeah.
Might work short term. You might think, yeah, yeah, we've done that, but down the line, it never works. And it played out exactly like that in Scotland. Tried to
Yeah.
bring in rent controls, capped it. You couldn't raise your rents. No fault evictions, all that kind of stuff. Um, but as soon as it's lifted, all the pressure's built,
Yeah.
and then the pressure's there. They have to lift it because if all the landlords flee the market,
Yeah.
how are they housing people?
Yeah.
Because the professional landlords doing it properly are housing people in that market who are not buyers,
Yeah.
quite simply, and the pressure builds to such a point that you have to relieve it. You take the cap off, and what happens? Rents go up 30% in a matter of months, which is exactly what
Uh,
happened.
uh, I mean, I can't believe how high our rents have gone. Like, and it felt like overnight. And when our agents were contacting us saying we need to review your rents. I mean, some of them were a difference of like
Yeah.
350
They
quid
literally
a
went from
month.
550 to 850.
Yeah, I mean, I can't impose that on a tenant. Like morally, ethically, okay, business wise, that would be lovely, but it's just it's not
Yeah.
feasible. And again, if you've structured your deals correctly at the beginning, you shouldn't need to put your rents up to that level. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the cherry on top of all this,
Well,
the way that the business is
yeah.
structured.
We'll come on to how professional landlords kind of deal with this kind of thing in a bit.
Yeah,
But essentially, in that, what we were doing then is, yeah, we weren't immediately raising rents, but when somebody moved out, we
yeah,
were seeing that the rents, somebody, the new tenancy would be at 800 quid, not 550.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that
So
was
I
now
mean,
the level of the market, and I don't think ever in history rents have gone backwards.
no,
So that's now the
not in
new
the UK.
reality.
Not in the UK.
Not
They
the
do
UK.
in other countries.
Mm,
So, in Hong Kong, for example, if the property value drops, the rent also drops. So the value of the property and the rent is linked, which is kind of weird.
mm,
But anyway, I think the UK is quite an interesting market to be in as a landlord because you are scoffed at, you are kind of not liked by the masses. You're deemed to be this capitalist building um, scumbag who's kind of like stealing from the poor
yeah.
and trying to fill their pockets with cash. And I have to say, organizations like the BBC feed that. You know,
You do?
there's programs on Channel 4 and Channel 5, like, Nightmare Tenant, Dodgy Landlord, or whatever the heck it is. People feed off bad stories. Negative news and bad news sells because 64% of human beings are more negatively driven than positively. So that whole frenzy of, yeah, the baddies
It's a
and the
great
goodies.
stat. Where'd you pull that stat from?
Yeah, it's a stat. It's an actual
An
stat,
actual
Nicholas.
stat. Right, okay.
Yeah, I like how you're like trying to call me out on
No,
that.
no, no. Just it's like a
64%
great
are
stat. I love it. It's a great stat.
negatively driven. And actually, what I love about the psychology of human beings is that we're far more driven by the fear of loss than the desire for gain, which
That's
backs up
proven.
the whole. Yeah, that is proven. So that backs up the whole negative thing. So you're feeding fear on fear. So why does bad news sell? Because people are like, yeah, I knew that would happen. Oh yeah, have you heard about that? And it just keeps the masses exactly where they are
Would you,
right now, not questioning anything.
yeah, I love if you going back to some of those headlines that we showed on YouTube for those not watching you. Please join our YouTube channel, This Property Life.
Yeah,
Have a
it's
look,
probably like.
subscribe. You should get some nice visuals now in our pods.
Not that we are anything to look
No, no.
at. Just when Nick said the good, the bad, the ugly, this is just the ugly, ugly, ugly today.
Well, you got a nice new background.
Yes, new
I've
background.
got a nice
We've
new
had some
background.
help. Yeah, there we are.
I can't remember what I was going to say now. Yes, the comments. Interesting. Anytime there's a property story in any of the papers, doesn't matter which one, go
Mm,
and have a read of the comments, and you see exactly what Caroline has said, borne out in print or online. The comments are just off the scale.
yeah,
Mostly jealousy based, I would say.
yeah,
Anti landlord. This is a great
very.
thing because it means properties come back to the market for people who need them. It's like, hang on a minute, right? Pause, because okay, some properties, yeah, the amateur properties that held on can go back to the first time market, but take our friends for example. That property probably went back in the market at 300, 400 grand.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not first time buyer market, is it? All right, so that argument's blown out of the water for that kind of property.
yeah,
Landlords selling up investment grade properties in, let's say, the central belt of Scotland, one of our target markets. A lot of the things we teach in our trainings is start at the entry level. But you're talking about properties that are 70, 80K maybe. And if
yeah.
anyone listening to this outside, in other parts of the UK, you can't buy property that you can. If you have a look, and we can teach you how to find those. Um, but the tenants in those properties are not buyers. We've literally had tenants in some of ours for 15 years. They have no interest in buying. They have no ability to buy. They are long-term renters, and they're really happy to be long-term renters.
Yeah.
Right. So that is what a lot of the wider market who are not in property or think it's too simple, they don't get is like not everyone wants to buy.
And I think we are seeing a massive shift in the British market. So, when we grew up a million years ago, it was the owner occupier desire. We were aspirational to own your own home. That had always traditionally been the way that the British people thought and felt about property. However, I think since COVID, in all honesty, maybe even from before then, we've seen, in fact, actually, it was around about 2008, 2009. That crash there put the fear into so many people about having that responsibility of a mortgage. It put them off having that. And then COVID came along. People were then, locked down in their homes, and they thought, you know what? We've always wanted a house with a bigger garden, and we've never been able to afford that. But if we just moved out of town a bit, we could rent somewhere cheaper than where we're living right now and get the massive garden. And we've got the flexibility to work from home now or go into town if we want to. And people's attitudes to owning homes has kind of changed a bit. And then let's get started on Gen Z.
Shall we? That's
What?
that's a different podcast. That's a whole different episode. I've got an
But
idea for
Gen
that one.
Okay, well, let me move on. Anyway, the Gen Zers, they don't even want a full-time job. They don't even want to work full-time. So how on earth are they ever going to ever purchase a home to live in? They want to be fluid. I mean, on many levels fluid, but they want to move around and be mobile and, go off on travel and, change jobs and maybe be a temp. Or, I've got a friend who has a GP practice and she cannot hire locum doctors because they just don't want to work nights. And by the way, nights in a GP practice is till 6 o'clock. They're like, nah, don't fancy that. So the whole work ethos, this work-life balance, then has an impact on, well, how are you going to get a mortgage when you have irregular income, or you're just being a bit mobile in various countries. I think we're moving more towards the German market, which is very much, you're a renter and that's what everyone does, and everyone just accepts that and they're quite happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as I said, we've had tenants in some of our properties for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And I think there's this big fear around that. We're different in the UK, and that landlords can just boot you out on a moment's notice, or these kind of things. And that is what kind of does give landlords a bad name when you read those stories or hear those stories. But I would attribute 99% of those stories to amateur landlords who don't really understand what they're doing, because a professional landlord wants tenants to stay for years and years and years at a time. They want to be professional. They don't want to just evict people for no reason. In 15 years of doing this, how many people have we evicted?
Join us for our 3-day property intensive workshop. This is world renowned. This is the program I took global for Rich Dad Education and Robert Kiyosaki. This 3-day intensive workshop will go through a step-by-step process on how you are going to choose the correct strategy for your life, your circumstances. We'll go through the pros and cons of each of these strategies, and then we'll show you how to actually pinpoint your investment area, how to find the deals in that investment area, as well as how to do the deal analysis. That deal analysis saves you from making any expensive mistakes in the property market. We'll show you how to raise the money. There are more than 40 different ways of raising money to structure your deals in a creative way. We'll show you how to make lump sums of cash, as well as residual monthly income. We'll also look deep into the whole psychology and how you can use debt to create generational wealth. We'll go into multi-million pound transactions, as well as the little baby buy-to-lets at the start. And we'll show you how to actually create that wealth plan for the future so that your generations to come can benefit from the work you put in today. When you secure your ticket to the next 3-day intensive property workshop, you will also qualify for our bonus material. We have a learning platform with over 20 videos and downloadable documents to get you started and prepared for attending the workshop. In those videos, whenever they're updated, you will get access to that content. We will also make sure on the workshop that you get a one-to-one consultation with a property investor so that you can have a bespoke strategy specific to your life so that you can hit the ground running after the workshop. We don't want you to attend a course after course after course. We want you to get results now. To secure your place in our world-renowned, 5-star rated, sellout property workshop, click the link in the show notes to secure your spot now. Spaces fill up quickly, so don't delay. None.
None. Not
Absolutely
one.
none.
Not one.
We've never had to go to court.
No.
We've never had to
Nope.
evict. Have we had people that we've needed to have a little chat to because of the way that they're maybe drying their clothes and creating some condensation?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We've had people.
you know,
We've had people leave, do a runner in the night and abandon.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
happened.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we should do an
Leaving
episode
some
on
nice
our.
little gift. There was one that left some nice little gifts in the house.
Was that the fleas?
There was. Oh, yeah, I forgot about the fleas. Yeah, there was fleas. I was thinking of more kind of bodily gifts.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten that
Maybe you
one.
forgot
I've
that one.
blocked.
All right, let's not go there.
Maybe we should have an episode on our property horror stories. If you are listening now and you would like to hear an episode on property horror stories, then do let us know on our This Property Life website or in our Property Wealth System community Facebook group.
We've
So,
got some
yeah,
good uns.
reach out if you'd like to hear some horror stories,
Property horror
because we've got
stories. We
plenty.
have,
Even
and
just
we'll go around the
even
team,
from.
and we'll get our team to come up with everyone's got some
Oh, we've got
classics.
some good ones. Good ones. Real good ones. I've seen some CCTV footage of one of our team's tenants and what they got up to. And wow. And by the way, the CCTV was in a communal stairwell, not in the property, just in case you think we're up to filming folk.
We will leave that to your imagination.
Anyway,
Yes,
yes.
back to
Okay.
topic. Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. So, are landlords leaving the market? Well, yes, there are. landlords
Yeah, they
are leaving
are.
the market. There is an exit. I've got a couple of articles here, a couple of stats here. So the last 7 years, UK rental market has shrunk by around 400,000 homes. This is Property 118. With many landlords selling their properties due to financial pressures and managing buy-to-let investments. The decline is attributed to high cost, tight regulations, changing market
Yeah.
dynamics. Um, yeah,
I think we've just
so
said all that.
hmm,
We've just said all of those
we have, yeah, but
elements.
there it is. I'm just confirming.
Confirmed.
So for those listening and thinking, well, look, should I get out?
Yeah.
You know, should we? Should we get out? What's the
Yeah,
answer?
no chance. No chance. No chance. No chance.
Okay, so
It's
why are we, Caroline and I, why are we not panicking and why are we not, joining the big exodus?
okay. Well, number one, this is our core business, and we can see the big picture. And in any business, you're going to have fluctuations, up and down, changes, legislation, market conditions. Anything that we cannot control, I'm not going to worry about. I'm not going to worry about interest rates. I'm not going to worry about which political
Okay, but
party's in power.
devil's advocate, all
I'm
right,
not
why
going
are
to
you
do
not
that
worried about interest rates? Because I think there'll be a lot of people
because
out there that do really worry about interest rates. How can,
okay,
if rates go up, doesn't that mean I make no money and,
yeah,
catastrophic, I have to sell at a
yeah,
discount, all this kind
okay.
of stuff?
Okay, so I think this the interest rate question is a really valid one, particularly for people starting because they do worry about these things. If you set the deal up correctly at the beginning and it's the numbers that you run, and this is where your deal analysis is absolutely key, is run and stress tested to at least a 1.5 point percentage above where the actual current is, then you're giving yourself some headroom. You're buying yourself that headroom and time to make any changes if necessary. So when the interest rates went up, I would say relatively quickly. Did you not feel that it was quite quick?
It's
It just
really
was
quick.
like the hit.
Yeah.
Hits just kept coming. It's like, oh, there's
Yeah.
another one. There's another one. There's another one.
That was thanks,
Um,
Liz and Quasi, for that one. That was good.
yeah, I know. But look, anyway, we said we weren't going to get political.
Yeah. Okay. No more
Um,
politics.
yeah, I think again, if you have an economy of scale, you can m- minimize the impact because you can, again, if you've done the deal analysis and you've done the stress test, you can have a number of those that are fixed at a percentage that's not being affected by the increases, or you can have others on trackers. You can diversify the mortgage products that you're on because you have a number. So let's say you have 20 properties and you have 12 on a fixed and the other remaining on a tracker. So the 8 that you've got on trackers, you're going to feel a little bit of a pinch there, but the 12 that are locked down on the low rates can maybe counteract that until you work out your next gameplay. That economy of scale is really helpful. Whereas if you have one, it's on a tracker, you're making like 70 quid profit every month, and the interest rates keep going up, you're suddenly now hurting. And the other thing about having one is if the boiler blows up and you need to replace it, that's a couple of grand that you need now to feed. And that's all coming out of your earned cash. So the economy of scale is a big one. And what we say to our students is getting to 10 properties within the first 12 months is the goal.
Yeah.
That's assuming that you're starting with buy to lets, of
Yeah.
course.
The risk here is for those who think property investing is buying a property, renting it out. Don't worry about making any money on it because the capital growth will be my pension in 20 years, right? That is the amateur mindset of investing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That is not
so
what we're
many
talking
people think
about
like that.
because
Yeah, everyone thinks like that.
yeah, because that is the risk. The risk is having one, as Caroline was saying. The risk is if you have one, something goes wrong, you have a bad tenant. That's when you hear all the stories of nightmare tenant.
Yeah.
Because you've only got one. It's your little baby. It's your pension, right? So
Yeah.
you're emotionally invested in it. Like when you can separate yourself from that, and you actually invest in the right kind of property, high yielding properties, emotions taken out of it, and it's pure business, right? So you are looking at you take it seriously. We teach our anyone that works with us, take it seriously, right? if you treat it like a hobby, you'll get hobby results. Treat it properly, seriously, then you'll get good results. So it's part of your job as an investor to understand what the mortgage market's doing and to think ahead. So we've never put all our eggs in one basket with mortgage lenders. If you look at our portfolio, we have a real mix of 2-year fixes, 5-year fixes, variable
Yeah.
rates.
Yeah.
Um, so we're always kind of thinking ahead. Well, what do we think is going to happen? Can't control it. We don't know what's going to happen. But we can think. Well, at
Yeah.
the moment,
Nobody does. And these journalists that write these headlines about what's going to happen is
yeah,
absolute
it's
nonsense.
nonsense.
I mean, the only indicators that we have as investors is what's the Monetary Policy Committee talking about? What is their sentiment? How are they voting? That will give you an indicator, but only that. And you can maybe make a prediction, but it is literally like gambling.
Yeah,
There's no point in basing any business decisions on what, could or might happen. You got to make your money now in the market that it is now. You get your tax advice for what's correct now, in the full expectation that that's not going to be the correct way to do things in 6 months, 12 months' time.
yeah, and also look at the differences in what 2-year fixed rates are and what 5-year fixed rates are, because that can give you an indication of what banks are thinking is going to happen,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why we have a real mix, because we hedge it. Okay, we'll put some on 2-year fixes. Let's see what happens in 2 years. But look, if we've locked in a good rate, or there's a good rate that means that we make money on certain properties, then I'm happy to lock that in for 5 years,
Yeah.
because we've set things up correctly so that we have a lot of wiggle room in those rates, and we're not that stressed about rates going up a lot, because we've locked in we bought the property right in the first place. We know what the
Yeah.
rents are going to be. And we've stress tested it at high yield anyway. So
Yeah.
that's a very different mindset to buying a property, crossing your fingers,
Yeah.
hoping you're going to rent it out, and then it's going to go up. It's going to double in value in 10, 15 years, and there's your pension. That's a different mindset.
And I think just don't panic.
Yeah.
And I've got a phrase that I use quite a lot, which is taking your medicine. And, kids, when they take their medicine and they screw up their face and they don't like it, it's a bit bitter. Sometimes you just have to take your medicine and say, do you know what? This tracker I'm on right now is higher than what I'd like it to be. But if I fix it now, the rate is going to be locked in for maybe 2 to 5 years. And I predict that rates are going to come down in the next 6 to 12 months. So I'm going to take my medicine. I'm going to take that hit that's a bit bitter for the next 6 to 12 months, in the hope and expectation that actually when the interest rates come down, then I lock at a lower rate that's far more palatable longer term.
But even if something happens, so like a Liz Truss situation happens again, right? It's not
Don't
overnight.
blame her. Actually, I'm going to stand up for Lizzie Girl here because the idea behind it was
Yeah,
correct.
the execution, and she didn't read the room. Right. So
She
that's
did.
that's kind of what happened there. But okay, when that did happen, it didn't. Rates didn't double overnight. They didn't suddenly jump 3% overnight.
No,
It took about
no.
it took like 9 months or something. So we jumped on that straight away, and we locked in a load of our buy-to-let portfolio for 5 years
Yeah.
at still a really good rate. It'd gone up a bit, but not massively, and we just went
It
and
was like
fixed everything.
yeah, some of them were high 2%, but low 3%, right?
Take that now.
Which now you'd snap the bank's hand off for that
Yeah.
now.
So that was about kind of understanding what's really going on, and the biggest danger is we could have sat there and gone, well, let's just see, this could be a blip, rates could come down again, right? And I think probably a lot of people might have done that,
Yeah.
but you've got to react to what's happening. So we kind of saw, we know that the property market is slow, it plays out slowly.
Yeah.
So when something like that happens, there's going to be a long lag on it. So it's like, well, look, let's just lock it in now. Let's do that now. We'll see what happens.
Remember to click the link in the show notes for you to access a free online 1 hour training special that's worth over £1,000 to start and scale your property business today. Click the link in the show notes to watch.
But actually, even if rates do come back down again, we're quite happy with those rates for 5 years. That's all right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't need to squeeze every penny out of it.
There was a couple of properties we didn't though.
Yeah.
So we chose to play the game. And it will go in our favor, but we're probably not going to actually play our final hand on that until maybe early next year,
Yeah. Well,
because I
so
believe that rates will come down further
yeah, we're
for the rest of the
refinancing
year.
three HMOs just now, and we're just kind of
Yeah,
holding fire a bit because literally in the last couple of days, our broker has said, "Oh, that rate's just changed. It's gone down." Okay, well let's wait again and see if it comes down again. Don't need to lock it
yeah,
in right now until last minute.
yeah, yeah. Let's just play the game a bit. So that kind of decision making freaks people out, and that's why when we teach the kind of 7-step system of investing, taking the whole decision making process out of should you buy this, should you not buy it, is out the water. It's like yes or no, very simple. When you should fix, when you shouldn't fix, that is fluid, and business decisions need to be made. The am I going to be a landlord or not? I think a lot of people are just getting out because that's not their core business. They're in their jobs, they're getting their main income stream from their salaries, and the property thing is, getting quite regulated and a lot of red tape that they're not familiar with, and therefore they're selling up. Then you have an oversupply of stock on the market, which then people stall from buying because of all the uncertainty and because of the high interest rates and because there's all these headlines saying landlords are getting out. So we were like, oh, should I not, should I not? I mean, you should never be in a situation where you're thinking, should I buy, should I not? Like, I've never seen an interview with Richard Branson where he's like, I'm just thinking that this is not the right market to be setting up a new business, or this is just not the right time for launching a new product. Like, he's never talked about market conditions driving his business. It's about you creating a business decision based on facts, knowledge, structuring the deal analysis, and pulling the trigger and saying it makes money now, therefore it'll make money in any market condition as long as I've hedged it.
Yeah, if it makes money from day one. I mean, I've got a friend who I think I'm talking about for years. Um, he's always wanting to invest in property, wanted to do something, but it was always the wrong time. Okay, so
Yeah,
it was either the era of cheap money, always too difficult because there's too many other people buying and prices are going up, so I've got to
yeah,
hold fire. But then when that switched, and it was like interest rates went up and there was more properties available to buy, but then it's like, well, what happens if rates go up and the market's saying the economy's bad? It was just, this is a bad time. It's like,
yeah.
so it just went round and round and round in circles. He has actually now bought, to be fair. um,
I think, well,
but it
only
took a few
because he
years.
went through that cycle. Only because he went through that cycle about three
Yeah, three
times.
times. Yeah, I mean,
He's wasted
genuinely,
about
like for
he's
the last
wasted
15
30
years.
years.
Yeah. So I think, look, anyone thinking about getting into property has got to make a decision. Do I want to be a landlord or do I want to be an investor? And they are different things. The
Oh yeah,
landlord is, well, I'll keep a flat, I'll rent it out, it's my pension play, maybe one or two. That's risky, I think, in this market because of all the legislation. It's probably just not worth it.
it's not worth
Um,
it.
I think if you want to get into property, it's like choose to be an investor, right? Do it
Yeah,
properly, scale. That's how it can work. Because going back to the clause 24, there is a solution to that, which is buy within a limited company
yeah,
structure. That's the solution. It's not a difficult one.
yeah. To every problem, there's a solution, right? And we were given the correct tax advice for holding our properties way back in 2008, and that is the wrong tax advice now.
Yeah,
And we'll be structuring deals that are correct in the current market that might be completely the wrong way to do it in 10 years time. We can't predict the future, so we have to do what's right in the market right now and
and
make the
actually,
cash now.
yeah, and I love seeing those headlines, right? Because if I see those
Yeah,
headlines, particularly in the mass market papers, I'm thinking brilliant because that's going to put off all the fence sitters, the amateur investors, the ones who watch the TV programs and think, oh,
yeah,
they'll dabble in that. Um,
yeah,
it puts them off, which means there's more out there for the professional investors. And I honestly think we got a bit of a window of opportunity here,
yeah,
right? Because I think, and this is just a prediction, crystal ball time. Don't know what's going to happen, but I think rates are probably going to come down. Money's going to get a
yeah.
bit cheaper. Rents
I
are
agree.
going, rents are going up, aren't they? They're not coming
Yep,
down. What are
yep,
prices doing? Prices are probably a bit static in the kind of stuff that we're talking about because people are sitting on the fence,
yeah,
right? But as soon as the mass market sees rates consistently coming down, you're going to go back to going on viewings and seeing 10, 15 people there. At the moment, you're not seeing that.
No.
So for pro investors, I'm going to say this is kind of fill your boots time, but you have to know what you're doing and you have to
Yeah.
set it up correctly.
I had a conversation with an agent just this week who was saying, yes, interest rates are coming down, which was great. We were all waiting for that. But construction costs have gone up, materials and labor gone up. And now everyone is waiting for the first budget that Labour is going to hold. Everyone's waiting to see what your man is going to say, or your woman actually, is going to say at the budget. And then they're going to know what the lay of the land is going to look like. Now, we've seen headlines of what they're going to propose to do. Remember, whenever there is a budget, unless it comes in with immediate effect, there's no guarantee it's ever going to happen. Um, you know, the next chancellor might get sacked for saying something, or fiddling expenses, or doing
It's all
something.
short term, and
Yeah,
our mindset is always we have a plan, we know what we're trying to do. Don't worry about things you can't control.
yeah.
But if you're buying a property that makes money day one, it'll be all right no matter what happens.
Whatever you do, do not discuss your thoughts or feelings about investing with property with someone who frankly doesn't do it. Right? If you're down the pub and you say to your mates or your colleagues, I'm thinking about investing in property, I guarantee you they will talk you out of it, or tell you how hard it's going to be, or what a big mistake that is.
Yeah.
I
Gen Z don't go to the pub, so in the gym or in the coffee shop, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what Gen Z do.
Well, I don't think our listeners are Gen Z,
Okay.
frankly, Nick.
Some might
So,
be. Wherever you
but
are.
yeah, whoever you are welcome to be here as our listeners.
Yeah.
But if you are talking to friends and family who, frankly, are not full time investors, don't even go there. You're going to be met with so much negativity, because remember, 64% of people are negatively driven.
I love that
You
stat.
need to get in with a net. You like that stat, don't you? I've taught you something today. Um, talk with people who are doing this as their livelihood, as their business, and get a measured approach, a measured message on the who's, the where's, the whys, and the plans. And that, you know, they say that knowledge is power. And yeah, that's, I guess, the big message is, if you're thinking about it, you're sitting on the fence, you're wanting to get a few more opinions, just make sure you're getting the opinions and thoughts from the right people.
Great. And I think that's a fab place to end. Nicely brought together and wound up.
Thanks. That's why I'm here.
Any anything going? What's going on with us with Property Wealth System, this property life, Caroline? What have we got coming up?
So we have got a lot going on, actually. I'm a bit exhausted. We've got our 3-day workshop, our one-off special in Scotland. So I have no other workshops in Scotland in the diary at all. And I haven't taught in Scotland for over 5 years. It's the 11th, 12th, and 13th of October. I'm keeping it small and intimate, just for guys who are here in the Scottish market and want this on their doorsteps in Edinburgh. So you make sure that you secure your ticket for that quickly, because the spaces are running out.
You got any left? Any spaces left?
I think like a handful, a small handful at that. Then we are going to be in London at the business show. So we've been invited as a property education business to present to up to 50,000 people over a 2-day process at the XL. Is that an arena? Is the XL arena? I don't know
It's
what it is.
probably
Is it a
more
centre?
a exhibition hall, I would say.
Okay, there
But
we are.
yeah,
So the XL Exhibition Hall. So we will be there on the 13th and 14th of November. So if you're in London town, come and see us. A lot of us are going to be there, our team, that you can all chat all things property. And I'm also holding around 5 sort of master classes throughout the days while we're there. So it's, again, going to be pretty hectic. And then the first weekend in December, just before Christmas, yes, I've said the C word. There's apparently only 16 Fridays till Christmas. There we are. So the first weekend in December, we're going to hold our workshop near Heathrow. So for folks south of the border, we can help you there. So make sure that you visit our website, propertywealthsystem.co.uk to find out more details there.
And on the podcast, please come back to us with questions, comments, subscribe, watch us on YouTube. We have got some great interviews lined up. Can't tell you who it is yet, but we have
Oh,
got a
yes.
good one coming, a big business coming to give us their
Big.
opinion on what's going on in the property market. And we've got some of our team doing fab things who I'm going to try and collar and get some more stories of some of our successful investors that are out there doing some really, really cool things.
Very
Anything
cool.
you want us to talk about, please do send us a message. Catch up with Caroline on Instagram.
CarolineClayton.property. I did my first Instagram live this week and it was a huge success apart from the first 2 minutes had no sound. So we've managed to like edit that out, but you can see it now, I think, on my on my grid. That just shows you knowledge is power. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but we're there. It's done.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Fab. Okay, well, as always, great to have you on with me, and look forward to doing lots more of these. And yeah, for everybody else, enjoy your week. This will be coming out Monday morning, so enjoy your week, and we will talk to you very soon.
See you next time.